The mining vessel drifted through the Kuiper Belt like a tired worker finishing another shift. Captain Ji-won sat in her command chair, watching the screen show nothing but rocks and ice. She had been doing this job for 15 years now. Find asteroids, break them apart, take the metals back to Earth. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Her crew of 23 people worked quietly around her. They were good people, experienced miners who knew their jobs. Nobody expected today to be different from any other day. They were wrong. The sensors started making strange noises. Hajin, the young engineer who always sat at the technical station, looked confused. He tapped his screen several times, then turned to Ji-won with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm getting weird readings from asteroid cluster KB 7743, he said. "Something is down there. Something big." Ji-won stood up and walked over to his station. She had learned not to ignore strange readings in space. Strange usually meant dangerous. She looked at the data scrolling across the screen. The numbers made no sense. According to the sensors, something massive was buried under the asteroids. Something larger than Earth itself. "Run a full diagnostic," Ji-won ordered. "Make sure the sensors aren't broken." Hajin's fingers flew across the controls. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, he shook his head. "Sensors are working perfectly. Captain, whatever is down there is real. And it's giving off a very faint energy signature. Something we've never seen before." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. In all her years in space, she had never encountered anything like this. She made a decision quickly. "Change course. Take us to that cluster. And wake up Dr. Minho. If there's something strange down there, we'll need our archaeologist." The ship turned slowly, its engines pushing it toward the asteroid cluster. Dr. Minho arrived on the bridge 10 minutes later, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. He was a thin man with gray hair and a curious mind that never seemed to rest. When Hajin showed him the readings, his exhaustion vanished instantly. "This is impossible," Minho whispered. "There's nothing in this region. Just rocks and ice. Nothing should be here." But something was there. As their ship got closer, the readings grew stronger. They could see the asteroid cluster now, a collection of rocks floating in the darkness. But underneath those rocks, the sensors showed something else. A structure. A manufactured object of incredible size. G1 ordered the crew to start moving asteroids. They used their mining lasers carefully, pushing the rocks aside without damaging whatever lay beneath. It took 6 hours of careful work. 6 hours of growing excitement and fear. Then they saw it. Metal. Dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The surface was smooth, unmarked by the millions of years it had spent buried under rock. As they cleared more asteroids, the true scale became apparent. This wasn't a ship. This was something else entirely. Something that made their mining vessel look like a toy. "How big is it?" Ji-won asked quietly. Hajin checked his instruments 3 times before answering. "Captain, based on what we've uncovered and the readings from deeper down, this structure is approximately 150,000 kilometers in diameter. It's bigger than Jupiter." Nobody spoke. The bridge was silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Minho broke the silence. "We need to find an entrance," he said. "We need to get inside." They searched for 2 more hours. The surface seemed unbroken, perfect. Then Hajin noticed something. A very faint outline of a door, barely visible against the dark metal. The mining vessel moved closer, and Ji-won decided to lead the exploration team herself. She took Minho, Hajin, and 3 security officers. They put on their spacesuits and left the ship. Walking on the surface of the structure felt wrong. Gravity was normal, which should have been impossible for something in space. Their boots made no sound on the metal. Everything was silent and still. They reached the door outline, and Minho pulled out his scanning equipment. "There's a control panel here," he said, pointing to a spot that looked like every other spot. "But it's not active. It needs some kind of power or signal to work." Hajen moved forward. He reached out with one gloved hand and touched the metal. The moment his fingers made contact, everything changed. Light erupted from the door outline. Symbols appeared in the air around them, glowing blue and white. The symbols were writing, but not in any language from the Galactic Council database. Then Minho gasped. "I can read it. I don't know how, but I can read it. It says, 'Welcome home, children of Earth.'" The door opened silently. Beyond it was a corridor that stretched into darkness. Lights began turning on automatically, creating a path deeper into the structure. Jiwan made another quick decision. They were going in. The corridor was massive, built for beings much larger than humans. Or perhaps built to move large equipment. They walked for what felt like miles, though their suit computers said it was only 2 kilometers. The corridor finally opened into a chamber so vast they couldn't see the far wall. In the center of the chamber stood a platform with controls that looked almost familiar. Almost human. Minho approached the controls carefully. More symbols appeared, and again, somehow, he understood them. "This is a ship," he said, his voice shaking with excitement. "A starship. And according to these displays, it's been here for approximately 12 million years. Ajin examined the control systems with wonder in his eyes. He touched one panel, and suddenly, information flooded into his mind. Not words, but knowledge. Understanding. He fell to his knees, gasping. "It recognizes us," he whispered. "It recognizes human DNA. This ship was built by humans. Ancient humans. Our ancestors." Jiwan felt the universe shift around her. Everything they knew about human history was wrong. Humans didn't evolve on Earth. They came from somewhere else. And they had built this. This impossible, planet-sized ship. Minho was accessing the ship's logs now, his hands moving across controls that responded to his touch. His face went pale as he read. "Captain, there are coordinates here. Coordinates to hundreds of other locations. Other ships. They're scattered across the galaxy, all in human-controlled space. We've been living next to them for centuries and never knew." "Why?" Jiwan asked. "Why were they hidden? Why don't we remember?" The answer came from the ship itself. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a human woman, tall and beautiful, wearing clothes from no era Jiwan recognized. The hologram spoke in a language that was both ancient and familiar. "If you are seeing this, then you have survived. You have grown. You have forgotten, as we intended. The memories were too painful. The war was too terrible. We saved what we could and gave you a new beginning. But the ships remain, waiting for the day you would need them again. That day has come. Awaken the fleet. Finish what we started. Save the universe." The hologram vanished. The 3 humans stood in silence, trying to understand what they had just learned. Finally, Jiwan activated her communication system. "This is Captain Jiwan to mining vessel. Prepare an emergency transmission to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we found something. Something that changes everything." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was built to impress. It floated in the center of Axiom Prime Station, a massive sphere where representatives from 847 different species gathered. Today, every seat was filled. Today, the galaxy was afraid. Ambassador Yunji stood at the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been Earth's ambassador for 20 years, And in all that time, she had never seen the council like this, afraid, angry, desperate. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice calm and steady. 3 weeks ago, humanity discovered something in our home system. We have verified the findings. We are not here to threaten anyone. We are here to share information as the Council Charter requires. A massive alien rose from its seat in the upper tier. The Voltrine Archon was old, perhaps the oldest being in the galaxy. Its body was crystalline, glowing with inner light. When it spoke, the words resonated through the chamber like thunder. Share information? The Archon boomed. You have discovered weapons. Planet-sized weapons from an age when your species nearly destroyed everything. And you expect us to remain calm? The chamber erupted in noise. Hundreds of species began shouting at once. Some demanded that humanity surrender the ships immediately. Others called for human space to be quarantined. A few even suggested more extreme measures. Yunji waited for the noise to die down. She had expected this reaction. Back on Earth, the government had given her clear instructions. Stay calm. Reveal nothing more than necessary. Buy time for the scientists to study the ships. But sitting in the observation section was Analyst Doyon, and he was not calm at all. He was furious, because 3 days ago, he had found something in the Council's historical archives. Something that changed everything. Doyon was a quiet man, who spent his days digging through old records and forgotten databases. Most people found his work boring, but Doyon loved it. History told stories that the present tried to hide, and he had found a big story. The Council had known. For thousands of years, they had known about humanity's true origin. They had found the wrecks of ancient human ships scattered across the galaxy. They had studied the technology, and they had made a collective decision to hide it all, to keep humanity in the dark about their own past. As the Archon continued its speech about security and danger, Doyon stood up. He was not supposed to speak. He was just an analyst, not a diplomat. But he couldn't stay quiet anymore. Why did you hide it? He shouted. The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the young human who had dared interrupt the Archon. Yunji's face went pale. This could destroy everything. But Doyon kept talking. I found the records. Council Secret Archive, 773, dated 6,000 years ago. The Morphid Collective found human ship fragments near the galactic core. You studied them. You knew what they were. But you never told us. Why? The Archon's crystalline body flickered. For the first time in the session, it seemed uncertain. Before it could respond, another alien stood up. This one was a Morphid, a species that looked like living liquid metal. Its voice was like music. The human speaks truth, the Morphid said. We found 17 ship fragments. Each one was larger than our biggest cities. Each one contained technology we could not understand. We brought this information to the Council, and we were ordered to bury it, to hide it. The Council decided that humanity should never know what they once were. Now the chamber exploded with real chaos. Species began arguing with each other. Ancient alliances cracked. The carefully maintained peace of the Galactic Council was breaking apart. Unji saw her chance. She raised her voice, using the platform's amplification system to cut through the noise. The Council has been lying to us. But we are not here for revenge. We want to know why. Why hide our history? What are you so afraid of? The Archon finally spoke, and its voice was quiet now, sad. We are afraid of what you were. 12 million years ago, humanity controlled half the galaxy. You built wonders we still cannot imagine. And then, in a single generation, you vanished. Every world empty. Every ship abandoned. The only traces left were your caretaker species. Caretaker species? Yunji asked, Us, the Archon said simply. All of us. We are not natural species. We were created by ancient humanity to watch over the galaxy while you fought your war. A war against something we still do not understand. And when you lost that war, we inherited a galaxy we were never meant to rule. For 12 million years, we have lived in your shadow, terrified of the day you might return. The truth hit the chamber like a shockwave. Every species in the Council had been created by humans. They were not natural. They were designed. And deep in their genetic memory, buried under millions of years of evolution, was the knowledge that they were meant to serve. Doyan sat down slowly, his anger replaced by understanding. Yunji felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. The Galactic Council wasn't just afraid of human weapons. They were afraid of losing their free will. A vote was called. The proposal was simple. Humanity would surrender all planet ships to Council control. In exchange, human space would not be quarantined. It was presented as a compromise, but everyone knew what it really was. Surrender or face war. Yunji stood at the platform and made her choice. The Council has no right to demand this. The ships are in human space. They respond to human commands. They are ours by right of ancestry and discovery. We will not surrender them. The Archon's light dimmed. Then you force our hand. A coalition fleet is already assembling. 10,000 ships from 20 species. We hoped negotiation would succeed. But if humanity insists on keeping these weapons, we have no choice. Surrender the ships or face extermination. Yunji smiled, though her heart was racing. You assume we only found one ship. We didn't. In the 3 weeks since Captain Jiwan's discovery, we have located 6 more. Each one is waking up. Each one is coming online. You have 10,000 ships. We have 7 planet-sized vessels that your own records say are beyond your understanding. It was a bluff, partially. The ships were waking up, but they would take months or years to become fully operational. But the Council didn't know that. Fear was a weapon too, and Yunji was learning to use it. The Archon stood silent for a long moment. Finally, it spoke. You have 1 month. 1 month to decide. Surrender the ships peacefully or face the consequences. This council session is adjourned. As the chamber emptied, Doyun made his way to Yunji's side. She looked exhausted, older than her years. Did we just start a war? He asked quietly. Yunji watched the alien representatives leaving, saw the fear in their movements, the anger in their gestures. Maybe, or maybe we just ended 12 million years of hiding. Either way, humanity needs to be ready. Get me every record you can find about the ancient war. If we're going to survive what's coming, we need to know what destroyed us the first time. Back on Earth, Captain Jiwan received the news from the Council. She stood on the bridge of the planet ship they had named Bulwark. It was a weapon platform designed for war on a scale the modern galaxy couldn't imagine. Systems were coming online every day. Power cores that tapped into reality itself were beginning to hum with energy. G1 looked at Hajin, who had become the ship's primary interface operator. The young engineer had changed since touching the controls. He understood things now that he shouldn't. The ship spoke to him in ways it didn't speak to others. Can we fight them? She asked. If it comes to war, can this ship protect Earth? Hajin closed his eyes, feeling the ship's vast consciousness around him. Yes, but Captain, if we use even a fraction of this ship's power, we'll prove everything they fear about us is true. We'll become the monsters they think we are. Ji-Wan nodded slowly. Then we need another way. We need to show them we're not the same humans who vanished 12 million years ago. We need to show them we've learned something in all that time. But as she said the words, she wondered if they were true. Humanity had been given a second chance, a fresh start without the weight of their terrible history. Now that history was back, and with it came all the old questions: power and responsibility, strength and wisdom, war and peace. The month ahead would determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of every species in the galaxy. The excavation sites spread across human space, like wounds being reopened after millions of years. 7 locations, 7 massive structures buried under rock and ice and time. Teams of scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked around the clock at each site. The galaxy watched with fear and curiosity. Humanity worked with desperate hope. Hajin had barely slept in 3 weeks. He stood on the command platform of Bulwark, the first ship they had discovered, feeling its systems wake up around him. It was like watching a giant slowly opening its eyes. Every day, new sections came online. Every day, he understood more about what this ship could do. The others had given him a title now: Primary Interface. It sounded important, but really, it just meant he was the one the ship liked best. When he touched the controls, they responded. When he asked questions, the ship answered. It was both wonderful and terrifying. "Status report," Captain G1 said, walking onto the platform. She looked as tired as Hajin felt. She had been dividing her time between Bulwark and meetings with Earth's military command. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. When would the ship be ready for combat? Hajin pulled up the displays. Power systems are at 30%. Weapons are at 15%. Defense shields are at 40%. The ship says it needs another 4 months to reach full operational status. "We don't have 4 months," G1 said quietly. "The Council's deadline is in 1 week. What can we do now? At current power levels, we could defend Earth's system. Maybe Mars and the inner colonies, too. But Captain, you need to understand something. This ship wasn't built for small fights. Everything about it is designed for battles on a scale we can't imagine. If we fire even one of its main weapons at the Council fleet, we won't just destroy ships. We'll destroy stars. We'll tear holes in space itself." Jiwon sat down heavily in her command chair. "Then we pray we don't have to use it." At the second site, in the Centauri system, Dr. Manho was having the time of his life. The ship there was completely different from Bulwark. It was an archive vessel, filled with the accumulated knowledge of ancient humanity. He had been in neural link with its systems for 16 hours straight. His assistants were worried, but Minho refused to disconnect. "Just 1 more hour," he kept saying. "There's so much here, so much we lost." The information flowing through his mind was overwhelming. History, science, art, philosophy. 12 million years of human civilization, preserved perfectly. He learned about worlds that no longer existed. He saw recordings of people who had died before Earth's sun had finished forming. He read the last messages of a species that knew it was dying. One message kept appearing, over and over, written in 1,000 different ways. "Forgive us for what we did. Forgive us for running away. Forgive us for forgetting." What had they done? What war had been so terrible that an entire species chose to erase their own memories and start over? The archive showed him glimpses, but never the full truth. It was like the ancient humans had deliberately hidden the worst parts of their history, even from themselves. Minho finally disconnected from the neural link and immediately fell down. His assistants caught him and carried him to the medical bay. As he drifted in and out of consciousness, he whispered what he had learned. They were trying to save the universe. They failed. We have to succeed where they didn't. At the third site, orbiting a dead world near human space's edge, a young pilot named Sunwoo made history. The ship there was something different, something strange. It didn't exist entirely in normal space. Parts of it seemed to flicker in and out of reality. The scientists called it a dimensional anchor. They thought it was designed to stabilize space itself, to prevent tears in reality from spreading. But nobody could figure out how to turn it on. The controls made no sense. The Neuralink interface kept rejecting everyone who tried to use it. Sunwoo was fresh from the academy, only 23 years old. She had volunteered for the excavation project because it sounded exciting. She didn't expect to be important. But when she touched the dimensional anchor's controls, something clicked. The ship recognized her. Not just her DNA, but something deeper. Something in the way her mind worked. The interface opened, and Sunwoo gasped as information flooded in. Unlike Hajin's gradual understanding of Bulwark, this was instant and complete. She suddenly knew exactly what the ship did and how to control it. "I can turn it on," she said to the surprised scientists around her. "But there's a problem. The neural link is permanent. If I activate this ship, I become part of it. Forever. My body will stay here, but my mind will spread across the ship's systems. I'll still be me, but I'll also be something more." The lead scientist, a woman named Dr. Kyung, immediately said no. "We can't ask you to sacrifice yourself like that. We'll find another way." But Sunwoo had already made her decision. She had seen in the ship's memories what it was designed to prevent. She had seen reality itself tearing apart, whole star systems being erased from existence. The dimensional anchor was the only thing that could stop that from happening again. "I'm doing it," Sunwoo said. "Not because anyone is asking me to, but because it's necessary. Because someone has to." Before anyone could stop her, she activated the full neural link. Her body went rigid as her consciousness expanded. The ship came alive around her, and for a moment, everyone in the command center felt something impossible. They felt Sunwoo's mind touching theirs, vast and strange and still somehow human. Then she spoke, her voice coming from every speaker in the ship at once. "I'm okay. It's different, but I'm still me. And I can feel it now. The tears in reality. There are dozens of them, scattered across the galaxy. They're small now, but they're growing. The ancient humans knew about them. That's what they were fighting. That's what destroyed them." Back on Earth, in the planetary government's emergency command center, officials were panicking. 7 ships were waking up, but only Bulwark had any kind of military capability. The other ships had different purposes. One was designed to build planets. Another could manipulate stars. A third seemed to be some kind of mobile factory. They were incredible, but they weren't weapons. And in 1 week, the Council fleet would arrive, expecting surrender or war. Ambassador Yoonji returned from Axiom Prime with grim news. The Council was fracturing. Some species, like the Morphids, were questioning the coalition. But the Valtrine Archon had convinced enough species that humanity represented an existential threat. The fleet would come. Blood would be spilled. Ha-Jin Jiwon and the other team leaders gathered for an emergency conference. Holographic projections allowed them to meet, even though they were scattered across light years. They looked at each other with exhausted eyes. "We can't win a war," Jiwon said bluntly. "Even with Bulwark, we're outnumbered and outgunned. The planet ships are powerful, but they're not fully operational. We need time we don't have. Then we need to change the game," Minho said. He looked different now, changed by his time in the archive ship. "The Council is afraid of what we were. We need to show them what we've become. We need to prove that we're not the same humans who vanished 12 million years ago." "How?" Yoonji asked. "They've already made up their minds. Fear is driving them now, not reason." Sunwoo's voice came through the communication system, strange and layered with harmonics that shouldn't exist. "There's a tear in reality near the Helix Nebula. It's growing fast. If it reaches critical size, it will destroy everything within 50 light years. That includes 3 inhabited systems and approximately 9 billion beings. The Council knows about it, but they don't have the technology to stop it. Everyone understood immediately. G1 smiled grimly. We stop it. We show them that the planet ships aren't just weapons. We show them that humanity isn't interested in conquest. We're interested in saving lives. But the Council fleet will be there, Yunji warned. In the Helix Nebula, waiting for our response to their ultimatum. If we go there, we're walking into a trap. Then we walk into it, G1 said. With our heads high and our weapons locked. We show them what humanity really is. Not conquerors. Not monsters. But people who would rather save their enemies than destroy them. The plan was insane. It was dangerous. It might get them all killed. But it was the only chance they had to avoid a war that would tear the galaxy apart. The 7 planet ships began moving, slowly converging on the Helix Nebula. On Earth and across the colonies, people watched the news with fear and hope. Humanity was about to make its stand. Not with weapons and threats, but with something more powerful. The choice to save rather than destroy. The choice to prove that 12 million years of forgetting had taught them something valuable. They had learned to be better than what they were. The Helix Nebula burned in the darkness like a cosmic eye watching everything unfold. Beautiful clouds of gas and dust swirled in colors that human words couldn't describe. And hidden in that beauty, a tear in reality grew larger every hour, threatening to swallow everything nearby. The Council fleet waited at the edge of the nebula. 10,000 ships from 20 different species, organized into battle formations that stretched across millions of kilometers. Every ship was armed. Every captain was nervous. They were here to force humanity's surrender or to destroy the planet ships if humans refused. Nobody wanted this war, but everyone had convinced themselves it was necessary. On the flagship of the Valtrine forces, the Archon stood in its command chamber, its crystalline body flickering with uncertain light. Around it, holographic displays showed the approaching human vessels. Not just 1 or 2 ships, but all 7 of the awakened planet ships, moving in perfect formation. They're insane, the Valtrine fleet commander said. They're bringing all their ships here. Don't they understand we can destroy them? The Archon said nothing. It was old enough to remember things that others had forgotten. Deep in its genetic memory were images of ancient humanity at the height of their power. The fleet commander saw 7 ships. The Archon saw something else. It saw humanity returning to claim what they had abandoned 12 million years ago. On Earth, the government was in chaos. Half the officials thought G1's plan was brilliant. The other half thought it was suicide. Angry debates filled the chambers of power. But the decision had been made. The planet ships were already moving. There was no turning back now. In the streets of Earth cities, people gathered to watch the news broadcasts. Every screen showed the same images. The 7 planet ships, each one the size of worlds, moving through space like impossible dreams made real. Humanity held its breath. Ambassador Yunji sat in her quarters on Bulwark, preparing the speech she would give to the Council fleet. She had written and rewritten it a dozen times. How do you convince people to trust you when they were designed to fear you? How do you prove you're not a monster when every instinct in their bodies tells them you are? She didn't have good answers. She only had hope and words. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it WSN single quotes T. Captain G1 stood on Bulwark's command platform, watching the fleet grow larger on her displays. Around her, the ship hummed with barely contained power. Weapon systems that could crack planets. Shields that could withstand the heart of a star. All of it waiting for her command. Hajin stood beside her, his hand resting on the control interface. His connection to the ship was stronger now. He could feel its vast consciousness, patient and old. The ship wasn't eager for violence. It had seen enough war to last 1,000,000 lifetimes. But it would fight if G1 gave the order. It would burn the galaxy if that's what humanity needed. How long until we reached their position? G1 asked.
2 hours, Hajin replied.
The other ships are maintaining formation.
Sunwoo says the reality tier is growing faster than expected. If we don't stabilize it soon, the critical point will be reached in less than a day.
G1 nodded. Everything depended on the next few hours. Either humanity would prove itself worthy of the Council's trust, or they would start a war that would make the ancient conflict look like a minor disagreement. Analyst Doyan worked frantically in his research station, searching through the ancient archives for any information that might help. He had found something 3 hours ago, something terrible, but he needed to verify it before telling anyone. If he was right, then everything about the ancient human civilization made horrible sense. If he was wrong, he would look like a fool. He ran the analysis again. The numbers came back the same. He checked the historical records one more time. Everything matched. His hand shook as he opened a communication channel to Yoonji.
Ambassador, I need to tell you something.
About the ancient humans. About why they disappeared. Yoonji listened to his explanation, her face growing pale. When he finished, she sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. Are you certain?
As certain as I can be, without being there 12 million years ago.
The archive ship's records all point to the same conclusion. The ancient humans didn't lose their war. They won. But victory required a sacrifice so terrible that they chose to forget rather than live with what they had done. What did they sacrifice? Doyen's voice was quiet. Everything that made them human. They became something else. Something cold and efficient and monstrous. They saved the universe, but lost their souls in the process. So the last true humans decided to end it. They wiped everyone's memories and seated themselves across the galaxy, hoping their descendants would do better, would find a way to save the universe without becoming monsters. Yoonji closed her eyes. Now she understood the weight they were carrying. Ancient humanity hadn't just run away. They had given their descendants a gift. A chance to succeed where they had failed. To be strong without being cruel. To save without sacrificing their humanity. Thank you, Doyen. I know what to say now. The 7-planet ships emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Helix Nebula. The reality tier was visible now. A wound in space that swirled with colors that hurt to look at. The Council fleet's sensors went wild. Alarms blared on every ship as they detected the impossible amount of energy the planet ships were generating. The Voltring Archon sent a message. Its voice filled every communication channel. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council space. You have been ordered to surrender your weapons. You have 1 hour to comply or face destruction. Unji stepped up to the communication platform on Bulwark. She activated the transmission, broadcasting not just to the Council fleet, but to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions would hear her words. Trillions would judge humanity based on what she said next. My name is Yoonji, Ambassador for Humanity. We come here not to threaten or to conquer. We come to save lives. There is a tier in reality growing in this nebula. Your scientists know this. Your governments know this. But you don't have the technology to stop it. We do. The planet ships were built for exactly this purpose. To heal the wounds in space that threaten all life. The Archon's reply was cold. We will handle the reality tier ourselves. You will surrender your ships now. You can't handle it, Yunji said simply. The tier will reach critical mass in 18 hours. When it does, it will expand exponentially. 3 star systems will be destroyed. 9 billion lives will end. Your fleet cannot stop this. But we can. Let us prove that humanity deserves your trust.
Let us show you that the planet ships are tools for preservation, not destruction. And if we refuse? Yunji took a deep breath. Then we will save those 9 billion lives anyway, with or without your permission. Because that's what the ancient humans forgot. Power isn't about domination. It's about choosing to protect even those who hate you. Fire on us if you must. But we're going to stop that tier from killing billions of innocent people. Silence filled the communication channels. On the Council flagship, the Archon stood frozen. Around it, military advisors argued for immediate attack. But something in Yunji's words had touched the ancient being's memory. A memory from before it was born, written in its genes. The memory of humans who created life instead of destroying it. Then something unexpected happened. The Morphid Collective's ships broke formation. They moved away from the Council fleet and positioned themselves between the planet ships and the Valtrine forces. The Morphid commander's musical voice filled the channels. We will not fire on humans who are trying to save lives. If the Valtrine want war, they will have to go through us first. The fleet fractured. Species that had been united by fear, now divided by conscience. Some ships moved to join the Morphids. Others held position, waiting for orders. A few began targeting the planet ships, ready to fire. Captain G1 watched it all unfold on her displays. Her hand hovered over the weapons controls. One command and bulwark would unleash destruction that would end the battle in seconds. But it would also prove every fear the Council had about humanity. Captain? Hajin asked quietly. What do we do? Jiwan made her choice. Lock shields to maximum. Protect the other planet ships. But do not fire. Not unless they hit us first. And even then, I want minimum force. We're not here to kill anyone. The first shots came from 3 Valtrine ships that didn't wait for orders. Energy beams crossed the distance and slammed into bulwark shields. The planet ship absorbed the attack without even flickering. It was like shooting at a mountain with a rifle. More ships opened fire. The space around the planet ships filled with weapons fire. And bulwark shields held everything back, protecting not just itself, but the 6 other planet ships behind it. Jiwan watched hundreds of ships, trying to destroy her vessel and failing. She could destroy them all with a single command. Instead, she spoke into the communication channel. We will not return fire. We're going to stop the reality tier now. You can keep shooting if it makes you feel better, but you might want to move back. Things are about to get strange. Sunwoo's voice echoed across all channels, layered with harmonics that came from existing partially outside normal space. Dimensional anchor activating. Everyone should move at least 1 million kilometers back. This is going to affect reality in unpredictable ways. The dimensional anchor ship glowed like a star made of impossible colors. Sunwoo's consciousness spread across light years, touching the fabric of reality itself. She could feel the tear in space like a wound in her own body. It hurt. It was wrong. And she was going to fix it. Beginning stabilization, her voice echoed from speakers on every ship in the region, human and alien alike. This may feel strange. Strange was an understatement. Every being in the Helix Nebula suddenly felt like they were in 2 places at once. Time seemed to hiccup. Space folded in ways it shouldn't. And then, slowly and impossibly, the tier began to close. On the Council flagship, the Valtrine Archon watched with disbelief. Its instruments showed the impossible happening. A wound in reality that their best scientists said would take decades to heal was closing in minutes. The dimensional anchor wasn't just stabilizing space. It was rewriting the rules of physics in a localized area. Stop shooting, the Archon commanded. Its fleet obeyed, weapons powering down one by one. There was no point in continuing. The humans were doing exactly what they had promised. They were saving lives, but the dimensional anchor couldn't do it alone. The tier was too large, too unstable. That's when the other planet ships moved into position. The Starforge vessel, piloted by a team led by Captain Jiwan's former student named Hyan, moved toward a nearby dying star. The ship's systems activated, and suddenly the star's decay reversed. Energy flowed back into its core. The star grew brighter, younger, its gravitational field strengthening. The extra gravity helped pull the edges of the reality tier together. The World Builder ship, operated by a geology team that included a scientist named Bora, positioned itself near a barren planet on the edge of the nebula. Light poured from the ship, and the dead world began to change. An atmosphere formed. Water appeared. In minutes, a lifeless rock became a living world. The new planet's mass helped anchor reality in the region. Even Bulwark played its part. Instead of using its weapons for destruction, G1 ordered Hajin to activate the ship's defensive systems at maximum range. A shield bubble expanded outward, encompassing the entire tier and holding it in place while the other ships worked. The Council fleet could only watch in awe. These weren't weapons. They were tools of creation. The ancient humans had built these ships not to destroy, but to preserve, to build, to heal. The reality tier finally sealed completely. Sun Wu's voice came over the communications again, sounding exhausted but pleased. Stabilization complete. The tier is closed. Reality in this region is stable. No threat to inhabited systems. Silence filled the nebula. 10,000 alien ships, 7 planet-sized human vessels, and billions watching from across the galaxy, all waited to see what would happen next. Ambassador Yoonji activated her transmission again. She looked tired but determined. Honored members of the Galactic Council, we have completed our task. 9 billion lives have been saved. We ask for nothing in return. This is what the planet ships were built for. This is what humanity chooses to do with the power we have inherited. Not conquest, not domination, but protection, healing, life. The Voltrine Archon was silent for a long moment. Then its crystalline form began to glow brighter. Something was happening inside it. Genetic memories that had been buried for 12 million years were surfacing. It remembered, not with its mind, but with its body. Every cell in its being remembered being created with love, being given consciousness as a gift, being trusted with a galaxy. We were wrong, the Archon said, and its voice carried a weight of sorrow. We've been wrong for 12 million years. We were so afraid of what you were that we forgot what you created us to be. You gave us life. You gave us purpose. You gave us a galaxy to protect. And when you needed to leave, you trusted us to carry on without you. The Archon ship moved forward, approaching Bulwark. Captain G1 tensed, ready for anything. But the alien vessel simply stopped nearby, close enough for visual contact. I remember now, the Archon continued. In my genetic memory, I have images of the humans who designed my species. They were kind. They were hopeful. They believed that life was precious and should be nurtured. They created us to be caretakers, not rulers. And we have failed that purpose. We have ruled instead of served. We have restricted instead of nurtured. We have been afraid instead of trusting. Other ships in the Council fleet began moving forward. One by one, representatives from different species added their voices to the transmission. Each one shared what they were remembering from their genetic memory. Each one acknowledged the truth that had been buried for so long. They were not natural species. They were humanity's children, created with care and love by beings who wanted the galaxy to thrive, even if they could not be there to see it. On Earth, people watched the transmissions with tears in their eyes. They had spent 12 million years thinking they were young and small and insignificant. Now they learned they were old and vast and responsible for nearly every species in the Galaxy. Dr. Minho's voice came over the communication network. He was still connected to the archive ship, still reading through millions of years of history. I found the final message. The last transmission from ancient humanity before they erased their memories and scattered across the galaxy. It's addressed to their descendants. To us. Play it, Yunji said quietly. A hologram appeared in space, visible to every ship in the nebula. It showed a human woman, old and tired, wearing clothes from an era that never existed in recorded history. She spoke an ancient language that the ship's systems translated automatically. To those who come after us, if anyone comes after us at all, we have failed. We won the war against entropy, but the cost was everything we valued. We became cold and cruel and efficient. We saved the universe but lost our souls. So we have made a choice. We will forget. We will scatter ourselves across the galaxy with wiped memories, new identities, new chances to be better than we were. We leave you this message and these ships. Not as weapons, but as tools. Not as instruments of domination, but as means of preservation. If you are reading this, then you have found the ships. You have awakened the ancient technology. You face a choice now. Will you repeat our mistakes? Will you use power to control and dominate? Or will you do better? Will you use power to protect and nurture? Will you remember that strength without compassion is just cruelty? We failed to remember that. We hope you will succeed where we failed. Be kind. Be brave. Be better than we were. The galaxy is yours to protect now. Don't let it down. The hologram faded. The message ended. But its impact echoed across the galaxy. The Valtrine Archon spoke first. I propose the dissolution of the Galactic Council as it currently exists. We were never meant to rule. We were meant to serve life, to protect it, to help it flourish. Let us return to that purpose. Let us create something new. A partnership of equals, where every species has a voice and no one has dominion over others. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council, which had existed for millions of years, ended in a single moment. In its place, the Galactic Assembly was born. Every species, including humanity, would have equal representation. Decisions would be made by consensus, not by the fear and power of the eldest species. 50 years passed. Captain Jiwan, now Admiral of the Ascension Fleet, stood on Bulwark's observation deck. She was older now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes were still sharp. Beside her stood a young woman named Yuna, fresh from the academy, learning to command a planet ship of her own. They watched the construction project happening in the distance. Hundreds of ships, human and alien, working together on something impossible. They were building a machine designed to prevent the heat death of the universe. The project that ancient humanity had started 12 million years ago was finally going to be completed. But this time, it wasn't just humans working on it. Every species in the galaxy contributed their knowledge and resources. Valtrine engineers worked alongside human scientists. Morphid artists designed the structure's beauty as well as its function. Species that humanity hadn't even known existed 5 decades ago now worked as partners toward a common goal. Did we succeed? Yuna asked quietly. The ancient humans asked us to be better than they were. Did we manage it? Jiwan thought about the question. She thought about the last 50 years. There had been conflicts, of course. Disagreements and arguments. But no wars. No genocide. No species trying to dominate others. Instead, there was cooperation, learning, growth. I think we're trying, Jiwan said. And maybe that's all they really wanted. Not perfection, but the honest attempt to be better. To learn from mistakes instead of repeating them. To choose compassion over cruelty. More planet ships had been awakened over the decades. not just human ones. It turned out that several other species had been seeded by ancient humanity too, with their own fleets of massive vessels hidden away. Now those ships worked together, not as weapons, but as tools for building a better galaxy. The Dimensional Anchor Network, with Sunwoo coordinating hundreds of merged consciousnesses, had found and sealed 47 reality tiers. Star systems that would have been destroyed were saved. Life continued. The World Builder ships had created 300 new habitable planets, carefully designed to support life without displacing existing ecosystems. Asterisk.